Welcome to the Blue Duck Fantasy Football Podcast.
And welcome to the Week 4 recap. I'm your host, Ben, and here with me as always is Matt. Matt, how you doing today?
Pretty good. A lot of football watch today. Average week, though.
Yeah, a lot of odd players scoring early in the week today. But we're going to hop right into the recap as soon as we finish talking about Devonta Adams' injury. We have news on that.
Yeah, it sounds like a turf toe injury. They did an MRI. Said that it's not very serious, but they were also thinking it could have been season-ending injury at the beginning. So their definition of not very serious might mean a couple of weeks. It might mean he's ready this weekend. Just a situation to monitor, obviously. Packers receivers are going to have a little bit more value if Adams is out, of course.
Absolutely. You're going to be looking to add Geronimo Allison as he's less than 50% owned. If Devonta Adams misses any time, they do have the extended week to get healthy since they played on Thursday, but that's definitely a big injury to monitor. We got a couple more injuries today, and we'll get to those as we get into the game recaps. Starting off with Washington at the Giants. Dwayne Haskins got to play in this game, and he was terrible. This team can't run the ball. Their quarterback that played today isn't ready to be an NFL quarterback. And outside of scary Terry McLaurin, there's nobody else on this team that I would like to start. Maybe Chris Thompson in a PPR if you're desperate.
Yeah, that's about it for me, too. Peterson isn't even reliable enough to start even in a good start. This is a good matchup for them, and he wasn't good. The offense has just looked really bad. The offensive line is really bad. The quarterback play is really bad. There's nobody you can trust here. New York Giants, Daniel Jones fell back to earth a little bit today.
As expected.
Yeah, for some of us. Some of us had us ranked pretty high still.
This was a decent matchup for him, and he should have played better than he did, but if you were expecting him to do what he did last week, you were just crazy.
Yeah, people were, asking if they should start him over, Aaron Rodgers and, players like that. It's like, well, no.
That's what we're here for, people, to make sure you don't start Daniel Jones over Aaron Rodgers.
Things like that. Yeah, people got a little carried away. Wayne Gallman looked really good, though, in his time in the game there. They were using the other back there, Hilliman, quite a bit, though. Shepard, okay. Evan Ingram, I thought he'd have a much bigger day than he did.
This game was kind of in hand for the Giants for a while. But, yeah, like you said, the backup running back, the rookie there, got a lot of touches as well. But Wayne Gallman looks like a top 25 play as long as Saquon Barkley is out. And I have no problem either putting him as a start or as a flex, depending on the matchup. But definitely somebody that I like. So him, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram, obviously, are the players that I'd be looking to start off this team, and nobody else. Move on to what was a pretty entertaining game, KC at the Lions. Matt, why don't you let us know what you thought of KC's performance today?
Pat Mahomes did not get any touchdowns. I think that probably surprised everybody, especially with Darius Slay being out to take out Sammy Watkins or whoever he was slated to be up against there. The pass catchers obviously suffered a little bit with that happening. The running back situation just continues to be meddled with Shady McCoy and Darrell Williams. When Damian Williams gets back, I think there'll be a little bit more clarity to this situation. Kelsey's going to be Kelsey. They had a really nice flip play there with Kelsey and McCoy, but that led to the entertainment value of the game, not so much for fantasy-wise.
Yeah, and that was kind of the last time we saw LaShawn McCoy in the game, because after that it was mostly Darrell Williams after that play. Darrell Williams wasn't overly effective. He had 8 carries for 11 yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns, whereas LaShawn McCoy, who is by far the better running back, just not near the goal line apparently, according to Andy Reid, so they're going to be using both backs. It's a committee, and at this point, Darrell Williams is vulturing touchdowns from LaShawn McCoy, but both can be started as long as Damian Williams is out. We'll see what happens when he comes back. I see LaShawn McCoy still having basically his same role, and Darrell Williams being sat down on the bench. As you mentioned, down game for Patrick Mahomes, and that means the wide receivers aren't great, but all 3 can be started. I have them ranked Watkins, Hardman, Robinson. Matt, what's your order on these 3?
That would be the same for me right now.
Of course you copy me. Moving on to the Lions. Don't expect this type of production every week from Stafford. This was a good matchup against a porous defense where they were going to have to throw. And I would love to see more of this from Kerryon. That's back-to-back 20 carry days, so I'm optimistic, Kenny Golladay was great in this one, and Marvin Jones is okay, and he's going to be a borderline start for me in good matchups like this. So if they were playing a bad team like Washington or the Giants, Marvin Jones would be okay as a flex or a top 35 wide receiver. If you're in 3 wide receiver sets, he could be just a start. And the Hawkinson injury didn't look good. Trying to hurdle somebody and landed on his shoulder and then smacked his head. He's not somebody I'm looking to start right now unless it's against a weaker defense, similar to the thing I said about Marvin Jones. But tough to see. Kids at home, don't try hurdling people.
Yeah, the Stafford game isn't something to expect going forward here. Like you said, it's kind of situational. Since the Lions cut C.J. Anderson, Carrion's been lead back. He was lead back before, but
unquestionable.
So he's been getting like the 20 carries a game. Really looked good today. Don't really need to repeat on Golladay. And, Hawk unfortunately got injured. I have him as a starting tight end still. I mean, obviously, if he's out, you're not going to start him. But it's someone that you might have to replace on the waiver wire this week anyway. But just kind of watch what you hear about him Monday, Tuesday before you have to make that decision for pickups on tight ends.
Moving on to the Titans at the Falcons. Falcons got routed in this one, but Ryan threw a lot of passes, but no touchdowns. Mariota is pretty good in this one, but his big game had a total of 227 passing yards. Do not ever start Marcus Mariota. That's it. A.J. Brown had a great game. He had 3 targets, 3 catches, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So that's 2 good games and 2 bad games. That's kind of how it's going to be for him. You can't start any of these wide receivers, and that includes Corey Davis, who led the team with 6 targets. There's just not enough volume for any of these guys. Any of them could be good one week and then just terrible the next. Even Delaney Walker is going to come down in my rankings a bit just because Mariota, I don't know, like they just don't use him as a passer enough. Derrick Henry had, 27 carries today for 100 yards? At this point, I'm avoiding all the wide receivers. If Delaney Walker is my tight end, then I'm going to put him in there. But he's likely going to fall out of the top 10 as Will Dissly goes in.
Yeah, for the wide receivers here, it's a consistency issue. I mean, Corey Davis, I really like the talent there. I think you're a decent fan of the talent as well. It's Marcus Mariota's consistency issues. But it was nice to see a nice day from Corey Davis today. It gave us some hope that he will be somewhat fantasy relevant this season. Derrick Henry, just never going to be somebody that you can. He's a volume play, and they use him a lot, so good. But he's never going to be someone that's got a great yards per carry. For Atlanta, Matt Ryan, big day, yards wise. Julio didn't have such a good day. Austin Hooper had an ace day. Mm-hmm. But that's Austin Hooper, and he does this. He has a good day, and then he has a couple of bad games, and he'll have a good day again. Calvin Ridley, I don't even know if he ended up with a catch. Maybe he did.
Yeah, he had 1 or 2.
Yeah, and Mohamed Sanu, nice day for him, but don't expect that going forward either. This was just kind of a day where Julio was taken away, so they went to Sanu instead.
Yeah, Sanu definitely has some handcuff value. If any of those guys get injured, he's the guy that's going to jump into the top 35. But outside of a deeper league where you can actually keep him on your bench, you're just not going to be grabbing him. This Tennessee defense looks like it's pretty good at preventing scoring. Don't think they've had too many games where there was high scoring. I know the Jacksonville game wasn't, this game wasn't, the Browns game wasn't. So just the Indy game, I don't remember what the score was for that one, but I don't think it was that high scoring, and I know Marlon Mack had a bad game that day. The one person I do want to talk about is Devonta Freeman. He saved his day with some receptions, but I'm officially worried, and I'm looking to sell him. So, Matt, who are some players that you have ranked around him? And we'll go through the list. I'm going to let you know who I would sell him for.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you some names. You tell me who you'd rather have, Freeman or said person. Sony Michel. Aaron Jones.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll go with Aaron Jones.
Marlon Mack.
I'll stick with Freeman.
Chris Carson.
Oh, easy Chris Carson.
Okay. Even with Penny back.
Yep, I'm not worried about Carson.
David Montgomery.
No, I'll take Freeman.
I think the rest of these guys, you'll take him, but Derrick Henry.
I take Derrick Henry over Devonta Freeman.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
Philip Lindsay.
Nope, Devonta Freeman. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the value is. It's definitely lower. I maybe, without counting, I don't know exactly where I would have him ranked rest of season, but it would probably be outside the top 15. I take Josh Jacobs over him as well.
Yeah, I didn't have. How about Damian Williams? That's the last one.
No, because that's a committee when he's healthy. I'd still take Freeman, and that's if he was healthy, it'd be a different question. But until he's back, I'm not gonna entertain that. I'll take Melvin Gordon over him.
Yeah.
Moving on, Browns at Ravens, and a big win for the Browns. Matt, tell us about the Browns. What's clicking? What's going well?
Jarvis Landry had a nice day. Nick Chubb had a very nice day.
Mm-hmm.
Odell Beckham, not so much.
2 for 20.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like Landry was the guy today, but he left with a concussion, so that is something to monitor. Chubb, good day. Like I said, he's always been like a top 10 back anyway, so I wouldn't focus on Odell Beckham. Hasn't been great this year in Cleveland. I don't know if it's the hip or what it is, but he hasn't been the top 5 receiver that we're looking for so far. Baker, been average.
Yeah, hopefully you didn't drop Baker Mayfield because better things are coming. I know some accounts on Instagram are telling you to drop Baker Mayfield. No. To me, it's time to sell Nick Chubb. It's a huge game. 3 touchdowns. You could have had 4 if they left him in, but they let Hilliard have the last one.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm saying sell him now, because his value is probably never going to get higher, and in about 6 weeks, you're going to have to deal with Kareem Hunt in that backfield. So if you can sell to a team that needs a running back, do so now. Don't give him up for free. He has a lot of value. Get yourself a prime player for him. And it was nice to see something from Landry. What about Ricky Seals-Jones? Are you buying this?
No, I am not buying Ricky Seals-Jones. I think that's kind of a one-time thing. Don't buy this.
I think if you're playing plug and play for tight ends because you've lost Njoku or Henry, he's somebody that you can plug in. I know he only had 3 targets today, but he's kind of just like a bottom of the barrel type of guy that if you really need a tight end and there's not much on the waiver wire, you can go grab him. I wouldn't be using any of my priority on him or much fab. As for the Ravens, it's not like they played bad. Like Lamar was pretty good, but because they were trailing, they were forced to abandon the run and they had to pass a lot more, which is not what they want to do as a team. This hurt Ingram's value. The pass catchers were okay. Andrews caught a touchdown late. Marquise Brown didn't have a touchdown, but they're the only 2 guys that I would start on this team because they're the only 2 that are getting consistent targets. They each had, I think, 7 today, whereas guys like Snead or Boykins just aren't going to be there week to week. Their floor is much lower, and you can't predict who's going to get the touchdowns and stuff like that, but Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews are the only pass catchers I want starting.
Yeah, it's the game flow kind of got away from them here. I'm sure they would have rather given Mark Ingram 20-ish carries instead of like 12 or whatever he ended up with. Yeah, it forced the ball into Lamar Jackson's hand. You'd think that would have been okay with the secondary issues that Cleveland was having, but their secondary stepped up a bit today. Yeah, but I'm going to echo your thoughts on the pass catchers on this team. It's Mark Andrews and Marquise Hollywood Brown. Nobody else for me.
Moving on to the Raiders at the Colts. Raiders go cross-country and win this one in a game that we both picked Oakland to win on Wednesday. Josh Jacobs did a lot of his damage in garbage time today, which was odd since the Raiders led all game. So you think that they would just been feeding him, but they weren't. He didn't have much up until the end of the game. He got like half dozen carries and even a couple catches late in the game to kind of seal this one. But nothing changes for me for the Raiders. Josh Jacobs, Tyrell Williams, Darren Waller, they're the only players that I want to start in this team. Carr is okay in 2 quarterbacks leagues through the buys.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that. You're right. The game flow was very surprising that the Raiders weren't just pounding it with Josh Jacobs a little bit more, but Carr had a couple early touchdowns there, so kept Tyrell Williams relevant. But anyway, for the Colts, it's tough to start anybody here. Mac wasn't very good. T.Y. didn't play, so when he's back, I mean, you're going to play him because you used a lot of draft capital on him. Brissett, again, not really a starting.
He has been playing well, though.
Yeah, it's not still somebody I'm starting out outside of a super flex or 2-quarterback league. And Ebron had the one catch, but it was a big one for 40 yards for a touchdown with like just over a minute left. So that kind of salvaged his day a bit for fantasy owners. But yeah, the Colts offense is just what I'm pretty much staying away from though altogether, except for T.Y. when he's back.
Yeah, I would agree with that because you got to see some of them do it. Like Pascal had 7 targets today and he had a score. Campbell had 6 today, but he also lost a fumble. Deion Kane had 5 targets and didn't catch any of them. None of them have stood out as the wide receiver to own or start there. So at this point, I'm avoiding all of them. Marlon Mack had a little bit of a low volume day today. He wasn't bad, 11 for 39. They were trailing early, so they had to kind of abandon the run a little bit, and that's why Jacoby had the big game. He had 3 touchdowns passing. So, like I said, he's more of a top 15 quarterback for me going forward, top 15 to top 20. He's not inside the top 15. He's like in that range where he might be, if it's a good matchup, he might get a start. But he spreads the ball around too much for me to trust any of these wide receivers, and I am fine starting Mac week to week. But if they play a tough D like the Bears, that'd be a situation where he might end up being ranked outside the top 35 and wouldn't even be a flex for me. New England at Buffalo, bad game for the Patriots in this one, and they still won. Fantasy-wise, they weren't great. That Buffalo D is legit. Sony Michel's still getting the volume. He had 17 carries today, so the only other thing I'll add here is that Philip Dorsett has definitely got a role in this offense and could be started in 3 wide receiver formats as a flex. So if you're playing in a PPR league that starts 3 wide receivers, Philip Dorsett could be your flex. So he's a player to maybe target on waiver wires, but you'd have to be hurting at wide receiver to be going after him.
Yeah, and with Dorsett, I mean, that's mostly just for PPR formats. In standard, you're not going to want to put him as a flex.
No, you'd rather have a running back.
Yeah. But yeah, Buffalo defense is one that they did really well against this offense today. James White did his normal James White thing, but Michel, he didn't have a ton of yards on 17 carries, so it was around
64.
70. Yeah, okay. So he's the bell cow back there, but it was not great. Usually he'll get a touchdown to help salvage that day. For Buffalo, Josh Allen left the game with a concussion. I guess another injury to monitor. Well, concussion protocol. I guess they never said for sure concussion.
Yeah, he looked fine running off the field, but he had already thrown 3 picks by that point. It's not somebody who you should be starting outside of in 2 quarterback leagues, though.
Yeah, Frank Gore had a really nice day, though.
That he did.
Yeah, and I guess he's like flex startable going forward.
No, he's startable for me.
Yeah, he's getting up there.
At worst, he's a high flex if Singletary is out.
Yeah, exactly. That old high flex there. I've said it every week. I'm not buying these pass catchers. Not John Brown. Not Cole Beasley. Robert Foster didn't play, but no Zay Jones. This is an offense that the only players I'll take is Gore, maybe Josh Allen in that super flex 2 QB league.
So you have Dorsett over Beasley rest of the season?
I do.
I still like John Brown. He's still a top 35-40 guy to me. Congratulations, Frank Gore, on going over 15,000 rushing yards, joining some elite company. Congratulations. It was nice to see TJ Yeldon get some work in the passing game, but outside of a 16-team PPR league, he doesn't have any value, and it's only when Singletary's out. So keep an eye on what's going on with Singletary. If he's out, then you could definitely start Frank Gore. And if you're really desperate at running back, you could start TJ Yeldon in a PPR league. Carolina at Houston. Big win for the Panthers, and Kyle Allen stays undefeated. Matt, your thoughts on the Panthers?
Christian McCaffrey is very good. We know that already. And we carried their offense today. Kyle Allen didn't look that great. DJ Moore was okay, but not really Curtis Samuel type volume that he had last week. Greg Olsen, 2 catches, I think?
Yeah, poor game for him.
Yeah. Again, it could be a little bit of a bump in the road for Kyle Allen. He had a great week 1. You didn't expect him to do that every week, but I thought at least Olsen would be someone that he would target quite a bit. But DJ Moore is okay to start. McCaffrey is on obvious start. Olsen will likely stay as a starter for most teams. But other than that, you can't start anybody out of this offense. I mean, Samuel is borderline flex right now.
Yeah, Kyle Allen didn't actually have a bad game. He was 24 for 34 for 234 yards. Granted, no touchdowns, but that's decent passing numbers there. I'm not excited about any of the Panthers pass catchers, but I'm also not avoiding them because I think Kyle Allen will be fine. He played really well last week. Didn't play poorly today. They just didn't score. But he won the game, which is what they care about. So I'm not avoiding them. If I have them, I'm going to run them out. No different than when Cam was playing. But I'm not trying to acquire them in trade or anything like that. As for the Texans, this is a couple of bad games in a row for DeAndre Hopkins. So it is time to try and buy DeAndre Hopkins if you can. He's still your number one wide receiver for the season?
Yeah, he's still my number one going forward.
I concur. Deshaun Watson wasn't great in this one, but I think this is more about the Panthers' defense than anything else. One of the big takeaways from this game, for some reason we have to say this is a big takeaway, Kenny Stills was injured. He had a non-contact injury. Pulled up lame. Looked like it was either hamstring or a calf or an ankle. Probably something in his leg. I don't know which one.
Hamstring.
It is a hamstring. Yeah. So if he's out, that's going to up Will Fuller's value. I still can't believe we're talking about Kenny Stills' injury helping other people. But Will Fuller didn't do much today. Kiki didn't do much today. Again, that could have been the defense. Kiki is a drop at this point. Like, you don't need him. Even with the injury, I don't think that he's going to regain that role, but I'm confident that Will Fuller will regain a larger role if Kenny Stills it out, since they kind of play a similar position. Decent day for the running game. Hyde is the leader, but Duke is not dead. He did have a decent game today, but you have to be pretty desperate to start either of them. And hopefully you were listening when we talked about Akins last week and how he'll have one big week and then disappear, and hopefully you didn't use any of your waiver wire priority or your fab budget on him.
Yeah, the running backs, Duke is higher for me in PPR. Hyde is higher in standard, but yeah, they're like low flex options for me. I don't think
low flex.
Yeah, I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be the top quarterback on this team anytime soon. That was not a very good throw when he got picked off there. And unfortunately, everybody that owns him got -1 or -2 points for that, so that's too bad for them. But yeah, Kenny Stills' injury is going to help out Will Fuller. Not going to change the status on Hopkins at all, but monitor Kenny Stills if you were starting him in a flex situation. Like I had him in one league going as my fourth flex, but he was the leading receiver on the team besides from Hopkins, and he left in first or maybe early second quarter.
Yeah, I think it was the second quarter.
Yeah, so Will Fuller should gain value back if Stills is out, though. That's kind of they kind of play a similar role in that offense.
Moving on to the Chargers at the mighty Dolphins. Austin Eckler, thank you for your contribution for the first 4 weeks. You'll now be dropping back down to about 30th to 40th every week. Still had value last year and did well in fantasy, especially in PPR. I think this upcoming week it'll be more of a split, but then after that it'll be less and less of Eckler. Dontrell Inman, it's a guy I wouldn't mind adding if Mike Williams and Travis Benjamin are both out, but you can't be using your fab on him or your waiver wire priority because you have no idea if those guys are going to play or not. So add them after the waiver wire runs closer to game time when you know whether or not they're playing.
Yeah, this is a team that's really decimated on their pass catchers with Williams, Benjamin, Hunter Henry. They did get Melvin Gordon back. They didn't use him today, but like Ben had just mentioned, I expect that to be more like a 50-50 next week. But yeah, going forward, it'll be Melvin Gordon show. Eckler, some value still in PPR. Dolphins, there isn't anything to say here. Devontae Parker had a touchdown, but
this was their best game of the season.
It was, and Devontae Parker has got a touchdown, but that's good for him.
Way to go.
Yeah, Devontae Parker I'm not interested in. Kenyon Drake had an okay day, and this is probably going to be his best day because the Chargers' defense is not, the run defense isn't that great. And this is going to be a team that has to pass all the time.
Yeah, actually, Josh Rosen wasn't terrible in this one, so that's good. If you're a Dolphins fan thinking about the future, don't be fooled by the Parker touchdown. Preston Williams is still the wide receiver to own here. He had more targets. And again, when I say own, I do not mean start. I mean in a deeper league where you have room or some type of dynasty league. This is the player you want going forward. And like you said about Drake, I think this is a ceiling. Like if he would have had a touchdown today, I would have said there's no way he has a better game than this all season. Yards-wise, he was, 60, 70, 80 maybe? Wasn't a lot. Wasn't 100, and that's probably gonna be his best game. And I know they're trying to trade him. They should be trying to trade everyone. That's gonna wrap up the early games. Move on to the late games and the upset of the week: the Bucs beating the Rams. Matt, what are your thoughts on this Bucs offense?
Yeah, Bucs beating the Rams in LA yet. Yeah, Bucs offense is it's still tough to figure out really week to week what's going to happen though. Running backs, you've said it multiple times, you're going to be frustrated all year. At least they both got a touchdown today, kind of salvaged both days, whoever was started for you. O.J. Howard disappeared again. Cameron Braid is the tight end they like to in the red zone. Godwin outshone Mike Evans. I called him Mike Evans this week, not Mike Williams.
Good job.
Good start. Mike Evans had the really big play towards the end of the game there that saved his value for the day. But it's a nice, high-scoring offense. Grab a piece of it with Godwin or Evans. I don't know if I want O.J. Howard. He's falling around tight end 10 for me right now.
Yeah, this is the offense that we were hoping we were going to get from the Bucs, and it took a couple weeks to get started, but it's arrived, and it's doing well. And in Arians fashion, the tight end is not involved. So let's talk about O.J. Howard, because there's a lot of owners who have O.J. Howard who are thinking, what am I going to do with him? Some people might be looking to buy low on him. He has a lot of name value. It's still early in the season. Some people might think, hey, this is just an overreaction. We saw what Diggs did today. We'll talk about that in a bit. People were down on Diggs. So I got some names here. O.J. Howard, as you said, is probably around top 10 now. Mm-hmm. So a borderline start. We knew this could be the issue with the head coach. So I'm going to name some players. And let me know if you would rather have O.J. Howard or the player. Number 1, Will Dissly. Rest of the season.
Still going to stick with O.J. Howard.
Vance McDonald. Healthy Vance McDonald.
That's really close, actually, for me. I think I'm going to stay O.J., but Vance is, right there.
Darren Waller.
I'm going to go Waller.
Austin Hooper.
O.J.
What about in a PPR league?
PPR, probably Austin Hooper, actually. He's been really good PPR so far.
Yeah. Last one, Greg Olsen.
I was just looking at his name. I had a feeling you might ask him. I would say OJ, but all these guys are really close. I mean, what I would probably do more so than just try and trade him straight up is go OJ Howard and, one of your weaker backs or receivers for one of these tight ends and one of their better ones, so you can you can sell that OJ Howard is a little bit better than the tight end you're getting, and just get a bit of an upgrade elsewhere.
Okay. I would actually take Will Dissly out of O.J. Howard. I think that they're using the tight end as much as they're going to use it, and Cameron Brate still has a big role there. Mm-hmm. I think O.J. Howard would be fortunate to finish the season as a top 10 tight end, and I think everything is pointing to Will Dissly being perhaps the biggest part of this Seattle passing game. When we get to Seattle, we'll talk about that. So I like him over that. Moving on to the Rams. Woods, big game today, but no touchdown. Cup again had the touchdowns. As we mentioned with these guys, you can't pick week to week who's going to have the best game. You can think, this game lines up perfectly for Brandon Cooks, and then he can fall flat. So every single one of these people should be in your starting lineup, especially through the buys. There's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be. And the carries were a little more split today, but the snaps definitely weren't. With them chasing points, I think they kind of didn't use Gurley as a runner as much and use him a lot more in the passing game. I'm still holding Malcolm Brown because I know those knees aren't going to hold on. Matt, your thoughts on the Rams today?
Yeah, it was the Robert Woods show today. Again, week to week, you don't really know which one, but I had all these guys ranked inside the top 25, and that's just what you're going to have to do, and you're going to have to run them out and hope it's their week to do well. Neither running back got a ton of carries, though. I know you said they're pretty split, but they weren't.
Nope, like I said, with the game strip with them chasing points,
yeah.
I think at one point when I checked it, it wasn't at the end of the game because that game went long. Gurley had 5 and Malcolm Brown had 4. Gurley 16 yards, Brown 8 or something. Nothing amazing.
Yeah, but Gurley had the 2 touchdowns to salvage the day there.
Yep.
Gerald Everett is getting closer to a startable tight end. He's creeping up there. He's getting to about tight end 20. Still not startable, but he's
tight end 20, okay.
Yeah, it's not startable yet, but he's going in the right direction. Higbee had the one bigger day, I think, and then that's basically been Gerald Everett from there on.
And the thing is, bigger day was like not on a lot of targets. He just had the touchdown. All right, Seattle at Arizona. 20-plus carries for Chris Carson and over 100 yards. But most importantly, no fumbles. Way to go. Even if Penny plays, I think Carson is still top 15, as I had mentioned earlier. He did have 4 catches today as well as a touchdown that got called back, so his day could have been even bigger. Will Dissly, the man of the hour, who led the team in targets. And I think when Seattle has a game go their way like it did today, it's going to be bad for the pass catchers, with the exception of Will Dissly. I think Will Dissly's in the plans for this offense. When they get near the goal line, he's going to be somebody they look at. That's 3 straight games with at least 1 touchdown. But when they're winning, they're going to be running, which was obvious. 20-plus carries for Carson. I think ProSize had, a half dozen or so carries as well. 3. Was there somebody else who ran?
Just Russ.
So, yeah, that's a lot of running. This team likes to run, and when they're winning, they're going to run a lot, and your DK Metcalfs and your Tyler Lockett's are going to have very little value. But Will Dissly, top 10 for me.
Yeah, 7 catches, 57 yards for Dissly with 1 touchdown. Without that touchdown, it's not that great of a day. But, I mean, for tight end, it's still decent.
It's still good enough for a tight end start.
Yeah. Carson's going to be fine as long as he doesn't put the ball on the ground. It's when he starts putting the ball on the ground and Rashad Penny's in that backfield is when you start getting concerned about him. I had him as running back 10 today, but we talked about it in the morning show. I was nervous. We didn't know that Penny wasn't going to play at that point. But if Penny's there and that the fumbling issues come in, I really see Penny getting a good majority of those carries. Maybe not majority, but at least a split. So it's just something to watch going forward. Cards offense, it's being consistently average. Kyler rushed in a touchdown, saved his day a bit. A lot of yardage for David Johnson through the air also helped his day. Christian Kirk got hurt towards the end of the game. I didn't see if he came back or not. He kind of got bent over awkwardly. Wasn't doing much before that anyway. Looks like DJ, he had 11 targets compared to everybody else's 5. That could have just been the game script with the Seahawks playing more of a prevent because they're up pretty early on them.
Yeah, rough day for the pass catchers, but to me, Kirk and Fitz are going to remain top 35 guys. They're similar to the DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel situation, with DJ Moore holding a bit more value than Curtis Samuel, but these guys are pretty close. They're borderline starts in 3 wide receiver sets every week. In 2 wide receiver sets, depending on your league, you could flex them, but you should have better players than any of these players to start. David Johnson had it's Chris Edmonds, right? Chase Edmonds cut into his carries a bit today. He had 6. This is something that was talked about in the preseason by the coach, saying that there was a role for Chase Edmonds on this team. We're finally starting to see a little bit of it. So I wouldn't be overly worried if I'm the David Johnson owner, but David Johnson's value is a little diminished to me, even with the pass catching today, which was nice to see. Rest of the season, Matt, who do you want, David Johnson or Chris Carson?
Well, that's close.
Putting you on the spot.
I'm going to go with DJ just because I feel like he's a little bit safer there.
I agree with that. If you could tell me for sure that Chris Carson is not going to lose his job to Rashad Penny because of the fumbling, I would take Chris Carson. Mm-hmm. But because that X factor exists, that he puts that ball on the ground one more time, he's going to see a lot of the bench. I have to take David Johnson, even though I think Chris Carson has the higher floor if he's the starter and the higher ceiling. But again, it is close. So good stuff. Moving on to Minnesota at Chicago. Minnesota, Cousins, goodbye. You're done. Time to move on. Thielen and Diggs are still top 20, though. And I know this is a broken record here, but you need to add Alexander Matheson if you need running back help. It's not going to pay off tomorrow, but it will pay off at some point. Matt, your thoughts on these Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't going to be the game that the offense broke out. Like, Cousins...
Diggs almost did.
Yeah, okay, but that was towards the end of the game. Like, Cousins, if you're expecting Cousins to have a really good day or a really nice bounce back against Chicago in Chicago, it was just never going to happen. Their offensive line was too bad. That defensive line is too good. He was under duress all day. He makes bad decisions. He holds the ball, but I'm not going to start him ever.
Yeah, it's just for people who weren't listening last week when we said you can't start him anymore. It just continues the message that you can't start Cousins.
Yeah, a nice day for Diggs. Towards the end of the day, Thielen is going to be fine. Like, don't overreact to this game because it's kind of the perfect storm for that offense to have a bad day.
Yeah, it's a tough defense.
Dalvin Cook had the touchdown, basically saved his day. He wasn't doing that much either. So that was just Chicago defense is a
and
defense.
Thielen almost had a touchdown himself too.
Right, and the defense, but this defense is one you're going to consider resting these guys against if you have somebody that's close and in just in a better matchup. Chicago, Trubisky got hurt. That was...
Got hurt early, too.
Yeah, and Chase Daniel kind of did what you would expect Trubisky to do, really. Allen Robinson had a decent day. The running backs were pretty split as far as I recall.
Montgomery led the carries by a lot.
Yeah, but didn't Tariq have a lot of catches or touches anyway? Yeah,
and Tariq had the touchdown as well. Thank you for picking him for me in the Sunday Showdown. Don't forget to tune in next Sunday, 1 hour before kickoff. Matt and I will be live answering your fantasy football questions, as well as playing the Sunday Showdown.
Tariq only had 2 catches. I thought he had more than that. It seemed like he was out there a lot more than this. I'm just looking at the box score here.
Yeah, he seemed to be having a bigger role today.
Yeah, and maybe he was just on the field and he didn't actually get the ball, but I bet you the snaps were pretty close. I don't know for sure, but they were probably getting. Again, Montgomery's going to take over a little bit more when it got more out of hand, and they're trying to just grind it out. That's more his role on the team. Allen Robinson, like I said, decent day for him. He's going to be the pass catcher you're going to want off this offense.
Javon Wims had himself a decent game as well. He seems to be the new number 2 with Taylor Gabriel out. Anthony Miller must have, slept with the coach's wife or daughter or something, because he is not seeing anything out there. I think he had a catch today, and I thought it was like his first catch of the season because I had not seen him. David Montgomery is not a top 25 running back for me going forward. Where do you have David Montgomery ranked? I don't see it with this offense. This isn't a good run defense because the Packers ran all over them. Was it last week or the week before?
They ran over the Packers week 1. You're talking about...
No, I'm talking about Dalvin Cook running all over the Packers.
Okay, that was week 2.
That was week 2?
Yeah, you're talking about David Montgomery.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that Aaron Jones ran well against the Vikings defense.
Okay.
So, yeah, sorry. Aaron Jones ran well against the Vikings defense, so David Montgomery should have ran better than he did here. The Bears are a frustrating fantasy offense because you never know which game plan they're going to go with. Is it going to be Tariq Cohen? Is it going to be David Montgomery? They're trying to give David Montgomery more touches. It's just not enough. And Allen Robinson is the only player that I'm starting here. I'm not opposed to starting David Montgomery in a flex spot, but yeah.
Yeah, just to answer your question there, you had asked where I put Montgomery for the rest of the year here, inside or outside the top 25. He's still going to hover inside. I'm just looking at some of the names around 25, and I'd rather have him than Miles Sanders, Freeman.
Yeah, Miles Sanders that high?
He was 27 on our consensus this week. James White.
We are missing Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, we definitely are. We're missing a couple of guys, but, we're not the 49ers backs.
No, the 49ers backs are going to be behind him.
Yeah, so, he's going to hover around 25, probably just a shade in 24, 23. So he's still going to have to be a starter for me in 2 back.
Through the buys, I would probably agree that he's going to be there. When I say he's going to be outside the top 25, I'm not saying he's going to be 40, but he is going to be outside of someone like probably Phillip Lindsay and LaShawn McCoy. And Frank Gore and Wayne Gallman are going to head in front of him as well. He's going to stay in front of the Tampa backs. He's going to stay in front of, obviously, the Philly backs. But, yeah. So he's just going to fall just outside the top 25 for me. Moving on, Jacksonville, Denver, our final game here. This was a great game for Leonard Fournette, and I would absolutely sell high on him if I could. And hopefully you were able to sell DJ Chark last week when we told you about selling him. He did have a touchdown called back today. So it's not a talent issue with him. It's just this isn't a high-powered offense that's going to score a lot of touchdowns, and he already had 3 straight games with a touchdown, and the yardage has never been there except for one game game one. I'm still looking to sell high on both of them. Matt, your thoughts on the Jaguars?
Yeah, great day for Leonard Fournette. Even Armstead was running over this defense when they had him in. I'm not opposed to holding this. Selling isn't a bad idea if you get the right offer, but I wouldn't be like taking less than I thought I should just to get rid of Fournette. I think that he's not obviously going to get like 200 yards like he did, but I think he'll be okay going forward. He was okay previously. He was getting around 100 yards-ish almost every game. Pass catchers, yeah, DJ Chark's the only one for me there. Broncos.
Let's talk about Leonard Fournette a bit.
Okay.
I got the rankings up. So let's throw some names and let me know who you'd rather have, Leonard Fournette or the person's name I give you. Chris Carson. Kerryon Johnson.
Carry on now that they've got the new style with him.
Josh Jacobs.
I'll take Fournette, but that's close.
Okay. Last one, and this one's going to be real easy for you. Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon's great.
James Conner as well?
James Conner, yeah.
Okay.
Like those guys, most of those guys were ahead of him to begin with.
Yeah, but neither of those guys have played great so far.
No. They'll both probably be pretty good tomorrow, though.
Yeah, so if you can, well, you probably won't get a chance to, as they'll probably, yeah, as you mentioned, they'll both be pretty good tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hit us up with the Broncos.
Good yards per carry for Phillip Lindsay. They didn't run the ball a lot here, which is kind of surprising. They were up most of the game. It was fourth quarter, the second half that the Jaguars came back a little bit against them. But it was really tight throughout. I thought they'd be running it a lot more. Good day for Emmanuel Sanders. No touchdowns. Shared targets with Sutton. They both had 9. Sutton got the 2 touchdowns though, so that made his day great.
How many catches for Sutton?
6.
6 off 9?
6 off 9 and 5 off 9 for 104 yards for Sanders.
How many yards for Sutton?
62. 104 for Sanders. So yeah, those guys are going to be kind of 1A to 1B in that Denver offense. Bigger fan of the Sutton talent, but Sanders is not going away as the season maybe starts to get a little bit more out of hand. They're 0-4. They might just go away from Emmanuel Sanders a little bit more, though.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like an 0-4 team. Like, every single one of their games have been pretty close other than the first Raider game. I know the Bears one came down to the wire. Oh, yeah, I guess that one was not overly close, but it wasn't a blowout either. Like, that was one that was contested late into the fourth.
It's 27-16, yeah.
Yeah, so this team is better than their 0-4 tag. Just haven't seemed to been able to close games. Sutton, my sleeper of the year, showing his worth today. Played the Bears last week, I believe, or the week before, which one week to avoid him. We talked about it today on the live show about who we'd rather have for today when we thought Ramsey was going to play. I had somebody ask me if I wanted Allen Robinson or Cortland Sutton. I had Allen Robinson at the time. Once the Ramsey news came out, I swapped it and said I'd go with Sutton. I made that change in the league that we were playing each other and put Sutton in for Allen Robinson. And he delivered. Probably still not going to be enough to beat you, but what are you going to do? Matt, you got some early waivers other than Will Dissly?
You know, there wasn't much this week. Dissly was okay. You'd mentioned Geronimo if Adams is out. I might be blanking here, but I'm not thinking a lot of guys that really stood out today as waiver targets. What do you got?
No, there wasn't much. We mentioned Philip Dorsett a little bit later, but again, like every single person that had decent plays today, like even Javon Wims, are guys that you're probably not going to be starting. Like they're perhaps slightly better than somebody who was on your team, but it's no one that you're excited to go out and grab. Will Dissly, to me, is the only one. Of course, check your league. If you do have some good players that are just under-owned, then by all means go after them. We talked about Kirk Cousins not being a start. He does get to play the Giants next week, although that defense looked a little bit better today against the Skins. But
yeah, that was Washington. I think even as bad as Minnesota's been, they're going to be a lot better than Washington was today.
And Washington hosts the Patriots next week, so another easy win for the Patriots. And the Patriots D is definitely your start of the week there. Yeah, just looking for the matchups. Colts will play the Chiefs, so if you're streaming quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett wouldn't be a bad start there. Yeah, the Raiders are going to be playing the Bears, so probably a situation where you're looking to avoid the Raiders players if you can. But we'll talk a whole lot more about that on our preview show that will come out a day earlier this week. So stay tuned. It'll be out on Wednesday morning. But that's going to do it. Matt, you have anything to add?
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully doing both.
That's it.